June 1985. A Russian computer engineer by the name of Alexei Pajitnov creates a game. A few years later, it is subject to one of the greatest legal battles gaming has ever known, and I really wish I had time to go into that, but I don't. Look it up though, it is quite fascinating. July 1989. It is sold as a pack-in title with Nintendo's debut handheld, the Game Boy, quickly becoming the system's killer app and would not be topped for almost half a decade. Almost 30 years later, and, a couple million different sequels and alternate versions later, and I still cannot play Tetris to save my life. This is Tetris on the Game Boy, a game that I swear hates me, not just because I'm awful at it, because I am, but also because on a, weird cosmic level, this game just does not like me, as at this point in time, I have bought 30, 40 different copies of Tetris, and it's not until about a week ago that I finally possessed a copy to talk about. Seriously, I've been buying this game since I was a kid, and it's only now that I finally actually have a copy to talk about. How weird is that? Anyway, the story of Tetris is quite simple. Well, actually, the backstory behind Tetris is quite complex and, again, quite fascinating, look it up. But the story of the game itself is simple. Invaders, quite possibly from space, are trying to take over the Erath. To soften us up, they send their single weakest invaders to us, en masse. Zombies, in the form of shapes containing 4 squares known as tetraminos. And it's up to you, the wielder of the world's only prototype gravity gun, take that Gordon Freeman, to arrange them in such a way that they get compact enough that under the weight of their own gravity, they ultimately explode in a horribly gory mess. Holy shit, Tetris is way more graphic than I remember it being. Awesome. Tetris is one of those games that is easy to pick up and almost impossible to master. Unless you're me, in which case it's almost impossible to pick up and even harder to master. The idea is simple. You are given these falling zombie blocks and you have to rotate them in such a way that you fill an entire line of blocks and then that line of blocks disappears. If you fail to do this, the boxes start piling up, and once they hit the top of the screen, it's game over. The zombies have won. And we can't have that, now can we? Of course not. At your disposal are the ability to rotate the falling blocks, thus allowing you to better position them and fill in any gaps, thus, destroying them, as well as the ability to bring down blocks faster, which may or may not benefit you depending on how good your reaction time is. In addition to your special gravity compacting gun, you are also given psychokinetic premonitions as to what the next zombie block will be. This allows you to help create a strategy as to how you want to set up the zombie blocks in order to compact them more at once. For example, if you manage to wipe out 2 or 3 layers, you're going to get more points at a time than if you were to wipe out 1. And if you happen to get that elusive line zombie block of doom and use it to take out 4 rows at once, you get something magically known as a Tetris, which will allow you to gain more points to get a higher score. And this score is important because you can then take those points onto Tetris Box Live and trade them in for various voice and skin packs. So if you ever want to unlock that Snoop Dogg Square Piece voice pack, you better start racking up those points, kiddo. Now, in addition to the basic gameplay of Tetris, it comes in not 1, but 2 game modes. Yeah, look at that, you're getting 2 games for the price of 1, how awesome is that? The first game mode is basically a zombie horde mode style game, where you are given unlimited numbers of zombie blocks, and you basically have to delay the inevitable, fighting them off as long as you can, until they ultimately swarm over you and turn you into one of their shambling thralls. Not a pleasant thought. The second game mode is more of a team deathmatch style game, getting the highest score you can with the limited amount of resources available. That is, zombies you have to kill, and lives that you have to work with. The alternate game modes do afford a little bit different strategies, because one is about trying to stay alive as long as possible and earn the highest score that way, and the second is all about trying to get the biggest score possible in the shortest amount of time, with the least amount of resources. And both ultimately afford different strategies as to how you want to arrange your blocks. Do you want to get rid of your blocks in such a way that you get the biggest amount of score using only Tetrises, or do you want to get a bigger score by lasting longer by simply getting rid of smaller numbers of rows but more frequently? All depends on your game mode, and, if you're not like me and actually competent at this game. The overall presentation to Tetris is pretty rockin'. I mean, it's on the monochrome Game Boy, and they use different textures to show you what blocks you've got. That's pretty clever. In fact, Even when there's two different types of blocks that have the same general shape, they use different skins to tell you, this is the one that's the backwards L, whereas the other one's the proper facing L. Pretty clever use of visuals. Now, if you don't like the monochrome look, well, that's fine, that's fine. You could always get the Game Boy Color version, which is basically this, but with color. Or, you know, the NES version, which is basically this, but with color. Or any one of the 1,000,001 other versions of this. There are many different versions of Tetris that all have color. Maybe not this one, unless, say, you took it onto the Super Game Boy, but for what it's working with, it does a bang-up job. And audio-wise, come on. Seriously, this is Tetris. You just throw that name out there and people are already humming the theme songs to this game. And not only do you get one song, no, you get 3 songs, and you get to decide which one you get to listen to while you play. How frickin' awesome is that? The answer? Incredibly. Now, if you want to get a copy of Tetris on the Game Boy, well, there were a heck of a lot of the copies made. Seriously, this was the pack-in title for the Game Boy. And, of course, it was the killer app for the Game Boy for the longest time, up to the point where it was dethroned by Pokemon almost 10 years later. Seriously, Tetris is the bloody king of the Game Boy. In fact, looking it up on eBay, cheapest one right now, $1. And I genuinely have no idea why it gave me this much grief getting a copy, but it shouldn't be that hard for you. Unless it's declared some cosmic vendetta against you like it has me. But, come on, it's Tetris. If you have a Game Boy, you need this on it. It was literally the killer app for almost a decade. You need this arguably more than you need Pokemon. It was that important to the system, because this is the thing that sold the system. Unless you got my Game Boy, in which case it came with Kirby's Dream Land. But the point is, Tetris is great, it's available on everything. And even if you don't have a Game Boy, trust me, you can play Tetris. If you have a smartphone, you can play Tetris. If you have a Flash browser, you can play Tetris. If you have a couple boxes that you want to cram into your car, you can play Tetris. Seriously, Tetris is in fact a life skill at this point, which is why when people pack, they refer to it as Tetrising, because they're literally trying to do this in real life. Hell, people have played this on the sides of buildings, which is incredibly awesome, and you should try and find some video footage of that if you can, because that's pretty amazing to watch. And also, people have way too much time on their hands, but still, props to that. This is Tetris. It is pretty much the most important Game Boy title ever devised. It's quite certainly the most popular Russian game ever devised, and it makes me really sad that this game is so popular, and the guy who made it basically made no money off of it, because, well, Russian. But still, respect Tetris, get a copy, play it, and even though I'm awful at this game, and I'm not necessarily the biggest Tetris fan out there, I respect what this game is, and I can say with full certainty, everyone needs to own a copy of Tetris, in some respect, because it's just that important, it's that damn well made, and seriously, I might suck at it, but it is really freaking addicting. It is one of the most addictive games ever, and the nice thing is, it's not a game that's stupidly addicting. Not like, say, a slot machine game, which is addicting because it's basically gambling. No, this is addicting because it's fast hand-eye coordination meets puzzles meets strategy. Come on, this is a no-brainer. Go get Tetris. It's awesome.